from WBBZ TV Sports. It's time to beat the champ. Now, here are your hosts, Paul Peck and Sue Novoitsky.
Well, hi, everybody, and welcome to Beat the Champ. My name is Paul Peck with Hall of Fame bowlers Sue Novoitsky and Janelle Saban, and we start our month-long run here at Allie Brandt Lanes in Lockport. Middle of the summer, weather's great. I think the bowling's going to be great because we've got some wonderful names, and we start with a great match, which is one of the best stories of Beat the Champ. Our winner from Tonawanda, David Tolkaz, taking on one of our best Beat the Champers. That's Mike Zarcone.
Well, David didn't bowl for 17 years. I don't think Mike stopped bowling for 17 years. So
17 minutes.
Right. So there's so much experience between Mike Zarcone and the rest of the people that are going to be on this show. But you know what? David's come on strong.
Yeah, and among the other bowlers that we're going to see this month, including some of our best Beat the Champ bowlers, that would be Michael Kemp, Matt Zazowski. We've got the Obenauer Masters champ, Kevin Bianco, making his Beat the Champ
this
debut.
is going to be a great month of bowling. You got to make sure you tune in for this month.
Yeah, so you're locked in for the next 3 weeks. But Janelle, we're going to start today, and we start with that great match, and we know how good the crowd support was for David at Tonawanda. We'll see if that happens again.
Definitely. I mean, we know sometimes summer is a little slow for bowling, but these crowds have been great, and it'll be fun today at Allie Brandt.
Not slow for the crowds, not slow for the excitement. It is time. First match, Zarcone and Tolkaz. Let's get rolling. So there are our combatants for the first match of the day here at Allie Brandt Lanes, and Mike Zarcone, obviously a very familiar name for us, and we've seen him on, this will actually be his 14th appearance here on Beat the Champ, and as you've talked about, Sue, and we'll talk more about David Tolkaz, what a great story. We'll repeat some of the cool parts of that story that gets him from Tonawanda to here. But here we go, Allie Brandt Lanes, Beat the Champ, summer of 2017, and Mike Zarcone's first throw will leave the 7-pin.
Although a very, very good shot. I mean, good shot out of the gate. That's just a kind of a bad break.
So for Zarcone, I mentioned 14th show. He has an overall record of 12 wins and 9 losses. And those 12 wins are tied for the most of anyone here on Beat the Champ. He is tied with Tyler Molina with those 12 wins. We saw Mike Zarcone last month at Tonawanda Bowling Center. We see Mike every month, pretty much.
Well, you said 14 shows, and we've been taping for 20 months, so there's very rarely a month where we haven't had Mike Zarcone on the show.
That is correct. And on the flip side, it's the second appearance for David Tolkaz, 1-0 in his first appearance 2 weeks ago at Tonawanda when he beat Michael Kemp. And that one did not have a lot of speed, and it leaves what looks like the 9 and the 10, or maybe the 6 and the 10 up there.
Yeah, that looked like he might have been a little bit stiff from waiting to be on the show. It wasn't quite the shot he wanted to get off his hand, but he left an easy spare.
39 years old from Buffalo, New York, works for an internet marketing firm, does David Tolkaz, and if you'll remember, and I know you've had a chance to talk to him a little bit, he was the last qualifier at Tonawanda, 24th in the top 24. He was the last, as a matter of fact, he didn't even think he was going to make it. He had to be called by his girlfriend to come back to the bowling alley for the roll-off at the top 24, and then he winds up getting the last and 9th spot for the TV show, and then he goes up against Michael Kemp, who was on a 4-match winning streak, has been one of our hottest guys in 2017, and he comes up with a big upset.
I know, it's kind of cool because he didn't have a lot of time to think about it, so sometimes you don't outthink something when you kind of get thrown into it. But not this week. This week he's had time to think about it.
He's had a couple weeks to think about it, and there's a nice strike from David Tolkaz. And then you mentioned it in the open, he got away from bowling for a long time and decided to come back.
You know, for myself, as someone who's been bowling since college, I've never had any time off or taken any time off. It just seems unimaginable to me to stop bowling, but it seemed to work for him. He got busy and told me in an interview that a video game brought him back, but we'll talk about that later.
Wow, okay, yes, hold that story for us, will you? So there's a nice second frame strike for Mike Zarcone. Tied in for first in wins, as I mentioned, with Tyler Molina. He is #1. He has appeared on more shows since the return of Beat the Champ in 2016 than anybody else. This is his 14th show. But interestingly enough, and somewhat surprising, I think, he has yet to win in 2017. 0-2 in just 2 match appearances since the calendar year has turned. Now, some of that is Mike didn't make every show because he was competing in some tournaments and was out of town. So, but anytime you see 0 on the win column when you're talking about Mike Zarcone is always a surprise.
Well, pocket 9 pins, what we call a tap, a true tap, is not a way to get where he wants to get. That is 2 great shots on lane 33 and no strikes. So we're going to watch this lane going forward and see if it's a little bit different.
Right. Speaking of tap, I was looking at our lineup of bowlers for this month, and when Zarcone and Zazowski jump out at you, and I'm thinking we can dub them the super group ZZ Tap. I'm not sure they would qualify as sharp-dressed men, but they're pretty good bowlers nonetheless.
ZZ Tap.
You like that, huh?
That's probably going to be their team name next year when they bowl doubles again and defend their title in the city tournament.
What? Because I like those guys, they can have that without any rights fees that have to be paid.
So
Yeah,
David's
Mike's been great.
actually-
Mike's been one of our favorite guys on the show, and that's a nice spare pickup for David Tolkien.
This feels like a good time to take a short break. We'll be right back with more action on Beat the Champ. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ TV.
I'm here with a familiar face, Mike Zarcone, taking on the champion today. So you were a high qualifier to get here. Tell us a little bit about the qualifying.
Well, they were a little different. When I qualified Thursday to the top 24, we played 2 different parts of the lane. Sunday night I played deep, and Thursday I played right. So we'll see what happens today.
Okay, so that'll give us something to talk about while you're bowling. I'll be watching to see how you line up. Having a good practice session over there?
Yeah, we're figuring it out. We'll get it up.
Well, we know how good you can bowl on television, so good luck to you today.
Thank you.
I'm here with our champion at Beat the Champ, Dave Tolkaz. You have a very interesting story. Why don't you tell us a little bit about what brought you here?
Well, I was a pretty good bowler coming out of high school, and I was pretty good. But after I started going to college, I didn't have as much time to devote to bowling. I bowled 1 year in the All-Stars, but I wasn't competitive with guys who were bowling every day, so I stopped bowling. And then 17 years later, I decided to pick it up again. And for the last 3 years, I've been steadily improving. So I finally started making some cuts and bowling on sport patterns and, doing well with it. So I'm very happy.
What made you decide to come back to bowling?
I started playing that stupid PBA game on my phone. It was like, I don't know, I just enjoyed it, and it got me thinking that I should be doing it. And then I started doing it, and I was really, really glad that now I'm obsessed with bowling. I bowl pretty much every day. I'm out there practicing, trying to get better, and I'm glad I did.
Okay, so technology strikes again.
Yeah.
Well, hope you do a lot of striking today. Good luck.
Thank you.
That doesn't quite carry over to here. I don't think there's an Allie Brant Lanes video game, but we'll get Brian to work on that. But just thinking the sport through can be done, and David had the right thoughts there. 6th frame strike.
Well, I think he's fishing around a little bit, and believe me, when you're in a 1-pin match and your first choice of ball isn't working and you have to switch balls, you don't have that time to practice and see what the ball's going to do, and that right there was a little bit of a nervous shot.
49-year-old Mike Zarcone from Tonawanda, one of the all-time greats in Western New York, Greater Buffalo's USBC Hall of Famer, Obenauer Masters champion, bowler of the year numerous times. And Mike's doing a little fishing here, an appropriate reference in the middle of July here in Western New York.
It's interesting. It looks like there's a little bit of OB out of bounds on lane 33. It's almost like there's a strip of oil that's keeping the ball from doing its normal hook, 3/4 of the way down the lane. And that's, Mike just hit it, and I think Dave hit it earlier. So lane 34 may have a strip on it that's going to cause these guys a lot of grief today.
Right. So Mike slips over to 33 for frame number 7 right now. Muddling is a good choice of words. 2 strikes, 3 spares, and an open for Mike Zarcone through 6. And we're still in a match here right now.
Yeah, it's
that
a 20
open
pin.
frame brought everything back a little bit.
It's 20 pins, but nobody's really the first person who figures this out in doubles.
And again, didn't get enough hook right to left to hit that head pin, so he leaves a gap there.
Well, he moved
Or does
everything.
that have a nickname?
Well, he moved everything to the right.
No nickname
no,
for that?
this is it's technically a washout.
Okay.
It's a washout with a 6-pin, so it's the same approach to getting it, to picking it up as you would a washout.
All right, and again, that's another open for Mike, as he could not get those pins on the left side, enough pin action with the hook of the ball. So 2 open frames in one match for Mike is certainly not anything we have seen before from the winningest the bowler on Beat the Champ. So
Well,
now,
that's-
great opportunity for David.
Yeah, this is a case where Mike relies on that big hook in the back, and it's really leaving him formations where, although Dave is struggling to find the pocket, he throws it straighter, keeps it a little simpler, and he's leaving makeable spares. So this might be a game of making your spares today.
Well, 4 spares, 2 strikes for David Tolkaz, heading towards trying to grab a 5th strike here. There's a look at your Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, and Janelle Sabin doing a great job as always. And it's another spare for Tolkaz in the 7th.
Well, she's getting tested with these 5-pin counts, 4-pin
Yes,
counts.
she's not writing a lot of X's down on the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard, at least at the moment. And again, winner of this match does not get a break because it's Michael Kemp next up, and Michael Kemp is our winningest, one of our winningest bowlers in the calendar year of 2017. And again, just not a lot of pins are not being very kind right now, are they?
Well,
I mean, that's a shot that almost always you see become a strike.
Well, like I said, the bowlers thought this was a little bit different condition than what they qualified on. But when you're talking about preparing the lanes for as many games as we see, there has to be a little bit more concentration of oil because we tape 4 shows all in one day. In order for the lanes to hold up, you have to start them off with a little bit more oil.
Yet another spare for David Tolkaz, and that may be the strategy here. So the oil conditions are a little, as you said, a little different than what these guys qualified on, and they're a little different than maybe what they've seen generally on the show.
Well, again, more oil. Even if you took the same pattern and just tried to oil it heavier so that it held up better, once these balls, these high technology balls, get on the lanes and start moving the oil around,
There's a strike for Mike Zarcone.
it changes things. And these 2 bowlers approach the lanes very differently. Again, the down and in game of Dave Tolkaz and Mike Zarcone obviously hooks the ball a lot more. So they're playing the lanes completely different, which is a nightmare for moving oil around.
Don't forget, we'll have qualifying. We'll have those. We'll get the dates for our next trip here, next event next month. And remember, the winner of the top 24 qualifying wins a $500 value Dirt Cheap TV from our friends at Dirt Cheap TV. That's the prize on the line for the top qualifier, and we'll get you some of the dates for next month before the show is done. So another difficult leave for Mike Zarcone. And it's going to be a 3rd open frame for Zarcone. You can tell Mike's frustrated, and he's such a high-level bowler. He's not used to this, and I think he struggles a little bit, as you would expect with things when things aren't going your way.
It happens. It's sometimes when it rains, it pours, and when you try to move around, you still get more of the same. But this match is mathematically over, and now Dave needs to take a little time to figure out, just like that. He needs to find his way to the pocket.
And you got a nice little smile there out of Dave Tolkaz. So good job by David Tolkaz. It'll be 2 wins in a row for him. Well, Mike, it's very unusual to see you struggle as much as you did in that match. What happened?
I've never been so lost on a bowling alley in my life. It was very tricky, and I tried a few different things, and obviously nothing worked.
All right, well, that's shocking to hear you say that, and I know you'll figure it out and get it figured out. Brian, we'll try to make you feel a little better here.
Yeah, here's a little better for you, Mike. Nice bowling during qualifying. You had a great look out there, but sometimes it just happens.
Sure did.
Yeah, all right, so Mike Zarcone, tough one for him, but David Tolkaz moves on. Next match is coming up.
Hi, I'm with Mike Kemp. We've seen a lot of you around here lately, and it's changed for you because in the beginning you struggled a little bit to win, and now all of a sudden you're reaching for double digits. What do you think changed?
Well, I mean, the first few matches I had, it's not like I bowled bad. I probably got an unlucky draw, but, you know, I just went back and, you know, worked on my ball speed and my accuracy of my shots, and I've been pretty successful as of late.
And you continue to make the show, and every house is a little bit different. What did you see here when you qualified this week?
Yeah, here has been definitely a different shot than it's been the last few months. This is a little bit more difficult, so ball speed is very important, and accuracy. Like, there's not much room for error out there, so that's what I've seen from here.
Okay, so we'll talk about it a little bit while we watch you bowl, and good luck to you today.
Thank you.
Second match of the day here at Alley Brandt Lanes. Our returning winner, David Tolkaz, and the aforementioned Michael Kemp. And this is an interesting rematch, Sue, because 2 weeks ago at the Tonawanda Bowling Center, the match that David won to advance here to Alley Brandt was a win over Michael Kemp. So 2 of David's last 3 matches will come against the very impressive Michael Kemp.
Well, the interesting thing about Mike Kemp is that no matter when he gets beat, we see him back the next week. He's like one of those punching bags that
You
go
bet.
down and then just pop right back up again.
Yeah, that was a 235 to 203 win in the match a couple of weeks ago. And again, Michael Kemp has been, over the last 2 months, has rattled off both 4 and 5 match winning streaks. So he has been just about the hottest bowler we've had here in 2017. We welcome in the proprietor here at Alley Brandt Lanes, our friend Brian Borowski, to help us through match number 2. And right off the bat, whatever's going on with the oil on those lanes, Brian, it's a little better in match number 2 than it was in match number 1.
Yes. Welcome back to Alley Brandt Lanes mini golf. You know, during the summertime, of course, we have our mini golf we have to plug in.
Right, here we go. We got the golf balls and
Exactly.
we're there.
The oil pattern is a NCAA Roller 2. It's more of a sport condition, 38-foot pattern. We had the top 9 decide which pattern either they wanted to do the one that they competed with or a house condition, and overwhelmingly they decided to go on this pattern, so we went to their wishes.
And then it's a different pattern than what the guys qualified on, correct?
No, it is the same pattern that they qualified, yes.
Okay.
Last year when we had a sport pattern, we put out a house shot, but we decided bowlers to decide which pattern they wanted to do.
Interesting. Well, that's good that the bowlers are choosing the tougher pattern. And it's good for the viewers to understand that while they're used to seeing people strike a lot, you're seeing something a little bit different out there.
That's correct, and especially with the shorter pattern, what's going to end up happening is the oil's going to be pushing down, so it's going to actually almost create a little tighter condition. So during qualifying, it seemed like the higher scores seemed to be after the lanes were used quite a bit, which had a little bit more of a hold pattern to it.
Right. And sometimes it goes that way. Sometimes fresh is the better of the two, and sometimes bowled on is better. And in this case, it might be bowled on, and these guys got to make their spares and tough it out in the beginning.
So you saw an open frame there for Michael Kemp in the second as he left that 1 pin up, so he may be fishing around a little bit here trying to figure this thing out also. And now back to lane 33 for Michael in the 3rd frame. And again, leaving himself a split. And I think that what jumps out at me for both of you guys is here's Kemp and Zarcone, 2 of the best guys we ever had on this show, and they are muddling, to use one of Sue's words here already.
Yeah, it appears the lanes to be transitioning a little bit, so they may have to tighten up their shot just a little bit in order to get to the pocket.
Right, and I think as David moves in here for frame number 3, having thrown strikes in the first 2, it seems to me David is playing the safe game, the spare game, not trying to get too fancy, and maybe that might be what helps propel him to another win.
Well,
or keep knocking all of them down as well, too.
Well, that right there was a really good shot. On lane 33, he did go Brooklyn, so that was a bit of a break.
Yes.
Just what you want between 2 strikes, though.
Right.
You always want to capitalize on those errant shots.
So it's nice when the ones that don't go exactly where you wanted them to go still result in the same the end result. Now that looked like a late hook there, and it didn't quite get over where he wanted it to.
Well, this is a result of that pattern. You're not seeing what you're used to seeing. I mean, he's trying to keep the ball inside of the track, where normally we're watching bowlers play in the track being the second arrow. So he's really trying to not get it to the right.
So it's a 3 strikes and a spare start for David Tolkaz as he looks to win his 3rd consecutive match, 2nd straight here at Alley Brandt Lanes, and now back to Michael Kemp, 32 years old, from Cheektowaga, New York, 230 average for the analyst at M&T Bank. And what I mentioned is this is his 8th show on Beat the Champ, overall record of 9 wins and 5 losses. All 9 wins have come in the last 3 months. He had a 5-match winning streak and then a 4-match winning streak at Tonawanda, broken by David Tolkaz.
Yeah, that shot was much better. It seemed like he played a little bit more straighter up and got a much better reaction.
He actually looked like he moved his target in a little bit. He was right around 10. That one hit around 12, which must be where he's finding some friction. That one there got back out to 10 again. So it looks to me like the strip of oil is 10 is kind of out of play. The 10 being the 10 board second arrow, I should say. So he needs to keep it inside of the second arrow in order to get that normal hook in the back end.
We're going to be back with more Beat the Champ bowling action in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ. Let's get back to the action here on WBBZ TV.
So what went in, how do you get, Brian, 9 bowlers to decide on anything specifically, nonetheless moving to a little bit more of a risky pattern?
I was shocked. I thought, it might have been split a little bit, but everyone decided to go on this pattern. The scores were relatively good on this pattern. Mike shot like 760 to qualify, so it's a very scoreable condition. It's just that, again, you need to make your spares, you need to be consistent with your shots.
And I would think, Sue, that you guys as bowlers like to challenge yourselves a little bit. Everybody on this show is an accomplished bowler that scores well, 220 averages at the very least. So again, I don't want to say it's easy for you guys to put up big scores, but that's what you're used to because you're good at it. Do these guys like to every once in a while say, okay, I might not hit my average numbers, but I'm going to find out what kind of bowler I am? Or do you guys just
not
like
generally on television.
Do you guys, or you guys just like to have the glamour of big scores?
That's a good question. I think
for an Eagle thing, of course you want big scores, but like when you go to the USBCs, they're a lot more challenging. Some say almost near impossible, but that's where you really get a gut check and what your bowling skill is really about when you bowl in nationals.
I think it's really, really, really important to practice on these conditions. I mean, and you really don't get an opportunity to practice on these more difficult conditions. And when you have to come out and bowl on television on them, and you're in a one-game match, and every frame matters, it's a little more nerve-wracking. And I really think on that subject, it's been difficult for people to get out on tour and actually compete. And I say this on the women's tour, and I will say this, and I'm sure it plays the same on the men's tour. When you don't get to bowl on this enough, you cannot compete with people who see it all the time. And it's a big differential now for bowlers.
Yeah, that's a great point. Because when you're used to doing one thing consistently all the time, going to something totally opposite.
And these people that bowl Team USA, people that bowl internationally, there's such a disparity now. It's a great shot right there.
Terrific 6th frame strike for David Tolkaz.
There's such a disparity between bowlers that only get to practice at home and people who see those conditions on a regular basis, because you think you make a good shot on a house condition and you make that, and it's not as good as you would think it was when you see it on on a sport condition.
Correction, that was a 7th frame strike, so here's an 8th frame for Tolkaz, who is building a pretty nice lead. He knew that was not the ball he
Right.
wanted to throw as soon as he turned around.
And, you know, for the viewer, if you see their ball roll over 10, they have missed their target. If you see it roll over the second arrow, which he just got to the right of the second arrow, at that point, that ball's not going to flip back up for you.
No, but if that was a house condition, more than likely it probably would have been in the pocket.
Absolutely. That's where everyone starts on house condition, is right around the second arrow. So this is very foreign.
So it's a nice lead at the moment for David Tolkaz as he's thrown up enough strikes and taken advantage of those 2 open frames for Michael Kemp to put himself in a position for another victory. So what you've talked about the alignment. What's the ball choice decisions that are going to go into this with a different oil pattern?
Well, I think you should answer that.
It varies a bit based
Right.
on your style.
Right.
For me personally, you know, I throw the ball kind of hard, so I'm going to need more of a duller surface to get through the heads. You know, with someone, it really varies on the pattern. This is a shorter pattern. You may need more of a polished bowling ball to get down, because if you have a duller surface, it's going to hook a little bit too early.
Generally, are you going to use a different kind of ball on this oil pattern than you would on the house pattern?
Maybe.
I'm going to say yes.
Again, it depends on which pattern's out there. And what your game is. It's going to vary.
And, you know, an interesting sidebar to that is that bowling balls that sit in my bag through the bowling season that I don't use on the house shots are always the ones that I end up using when I go to nationals and bowl on a sport pattern. So I think there's a big difference in the balls that roll good on a house pattern and the ones that they don't generally wear well on a sport pattern.
Well, there's another, sorry Brian, not to interrupt, but another open frame for Michael Kemp in the 9th, and you kind of saw that one look of him rolling his eyes, and much like with Mike Zarcone, guys, these are guys that are used to winning and putting up high scores that are not finding the rhythm here today. And don't forget, top 24 qualifiers, much as Mike Zarcone came into this one as, against that $500 dirt cheap TV each month that we move Beat the Champ along to a new bowling center.
And once again, David is going to move on by, you know, making his spares.
Yep.
Well, rumor has it, Paul, in a few weeks you'll be actually testing out the lanes.
Yeah, that's what rumor has it, that I'm actually going to move from behind the desk to out on the lanes and remove any doubt of people who might not think that my bowling skills are as good as they should be.
Paul, blame it on the sport pattern. I'm telling you right now.
Okay,
I'm giving you a hint.
Good, thank you.
Giving you a hint.
Right away.
Sure, all right, good, thank you. You've got the built-in excuse for me. Yes, that'll be in 3 weeks for our exhibition celebrity match here at Alley Brandt Lanes. We're going to have a lot of fun with that.
What a way to break them in on a sport shot.
Yeah, thanks,
Why
Brian.
not?
Appreciate that. Appreciate that. So David Tolkaz will finish things off here in the 10th frame, post up another winning score for him. What a great story David has been. You touched on it earlier in the show. Away from the sport, came back and didn't even think he was going to make the show at the Tonawanda Bowling Center, and here he is, having knocked off 2 of the Titans, Zarcone and Kemp, here to get himself a 3-game winning streak. Kemp twice in that 3-game winning streak.
So the secret is making your spares and bringing a big cheering section.
Michael, you are such a high-level bowler. How do you, at least sometimes mentally, adapt to a match where you're struggling like that and you're not scoring the way you're used to?
Right, I mean, it's hard, you know, you just got to try to stay focused and pick up your spares. That's the main thing, but when you're lost like that, there's not much you can do.
How much of a challenge has the pattern, you know, been for you and obviously Mike Zarcone in the match before?
Well, this week it wasn't too hard, but today it was a lot harder than it was this week, so it was hard to figure out.
All right, well, Brian, make him feel a little better.
Great bowling and qualifying, and congratulations. Thanks for coming on bowling.
All right, so Michael Kemp, disappointing match against David Tolkaz, but David moves on. You got another match coming for you. Third of the day from Alley Brandt Lanes. It's next.
I'm here with Joe Pullman, who was a regular on the show for a while. We haven't seen you in a little bit. Tell us what you've been doing since your last television show.
Well, I've been bowling some qualifiers, just missing the cuts every time, but been busy doing other things too. So, I'm glad to be back.
Well, it's summer. Normally, bowlers take a little time off in the summer. Did you take time off?
No, I'm bowling on Tuesday nights this summer. I decided to get back into it. It's been a struggle, but I made a couple cuts now.
Okay, well, it's paid off because you're here today, and I hope you bowl well. So good luck.
Thank you very much.
Third match of the day as David Tolkaz looks to pull off the sweep. His opponent will be Joe Pullman. We'll talk about Joe in a moment, but David will start things off again, winning his last match at Tonawanda, his first 2 here today. So he's on a 3-match winning streak, looking for the sweep, looking for his second consecutive weekly win. And as Sue has pointed out, he is doing it by being solid and consistent. And I'm sure even David would say 205 and 185 aren't going to win you a lot of matches, but they've got him 2-0.
Well, let's talk about a little strategy here because he's switched. He was allowing the other bowler to start, and now he's chosen to start the match to stay away from this so he doesn't have to finish on lane 33.
That's correct. A very smart move, especially if he's been struggling on 33. You want to get an opportunity to get the strikeout in the 10th, and he chose to strike out in 10th, hopefully on lane 34.
Yep, and he starts off with a difficult split here to open things up on 33, and he'll get 2 and leave 1. So an open frame, 9 pins, first frame for David Tolkaz. And now we get our first look of 2017 at Joe Pullman, making his 5th appearance here on Beat the Champ, an overall record of 3 wins and 3 losses. We have not seen Joe since he bowled at the Rapids Bowling Center back in November of 2016. Speaking of Rapids Bowling Center, that's where we're headed next month. We'll have details on those dates, which have actually started this weekend for qualifying and is coming up quickly. And a good strike on the first frame for Joe Pullman.
That was a great shot for Joe. This is not exactly in his wheelhouse, playing the lanes inside of 10. He just throws it kind of hard, and he likes to use the right side of the lane, and that's kind of out of play for him, so he's had to adjust. So this is even better showing of his skills to have to play someplace where he's totally, not used to as much.
Correct.
So as a harder thrower, Sue, what's the impact of the struggles or the challenges of the lane conditions on someone who probably throws as hard as anybody that we've seen yet? So far, none.
Well, that's one of the things where Brian said how you choose your bowling ball. So he compensates for his speed by a duller bowling ball. If you see he's using a very dull surface bowling ball, so that'll get the ball rolling where he would normally kind of fire it through. But to his advantage, that ball's not really hooking in the back end for him, and he's able to keep it on line longer.
And sometimes, straighter is better instead of a big bending hook that a lot of the younger people like to do. They like to see the ball hook, but sometimes just throwing it straight is better.
Mm-hmm. So a good answer back from the open frame in the first for David Tolkaz with a strike in the second, and he'll move back over to tricky lane number 33. Third frame. And once again, everybody goes over on that left side, and things like that are left.
If you watch, he's opening, he's opening up his swing. He's getting it to the right, and he really has to keep it more on line. You're going to watch Joe, and he's going to be keeping it more on line.
There's the early look at Janelle Sabin and the Castellone Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram scoreboard. Third match of the day here at Alley Brandt Lanes. David Tolkaz and Joe Pullman. We've had an interesting start to our month-long stay here in Lockport with some interesting results and interesting scores here through the first 2 matches, and that is yet another open for David Tolkaz, and that is not unusual in what we've seen so far. So here's Joe Pullman, 46 years old, from East Amherst, elementary school teacher in Williamsville, probably enjoying a little of his summertime off here. Has a good cheering section on hand, including his wife Michelle and his daughter Claire and his brother Jeff, who we've seen on the show numerous times, is here as well.
They're quite the bowling family.
Yes. A lot of wobble on that one pin, but it won't fall.
That's the unfortunate thing about throwing it hard and straight. Sometimes the ball doesn't have an opportunity to finish, and unfortunately leave an 8-10 split. But one thing that I do want to bring up, we're having a scholarship fundraiser golf event at East Aurora Country Club August 7th. The Western New York Bowling Proprietors, Greater Buffalo Bowling Association, Tonawanda Bowling Association all to get together and do this great fun event. If you like to have fun, this is the best premier.
One of the great courses in Western New York as well, too.
I can't
Matter of fact,
see
I'm
that.
surprised that those guys at East Aurora let you anywhere near that course, you bowlers.
Well, hey, you know, we do it. There is a bowling center in East Aurora, so.
No, I'm just kidding.
we're not
That's a
all
great
bad.
course. It's one of the more challenging courses in Western New York, and if you follow golf, that's where the International Junior Masters is held every year.
Very nice. And so we still have some foursomes available. If you are interested, you can contact Jim Russo at Manor Lanes 2, and he can give you all the information. But if you like
And
to have
knowing
fun,
Jim probably a little more than what you really need to know on the information.
well, you know, he'll be more than happy to take your money.
He's sitting back there right now. We're talking about him. He can hear us.
I know he can hear us. I know. That's part of it, you know. No, Jim's a buddy of the show. We love him, and we love throwing some shots at him as well, too. So.
But as their
Is
association,
is Jim? Who's the better golfer, you or Jim? We're going to find this out on August 7th, aren't we?
Sure, why not?
You
But
do
as-
have the putting. You should
we
be a
do.
better putter
Well,
here.
I am a great putter, by the way. So, but as our local association, we pay out $8,000 in scholarships every year. So this is just a fundraiser to help support the junior bowling of Western New York.
And it really is a fun event, and you guys do a great job running it, because I've attended it, not as a golfer, but I've attended the dinner afterwards, and
I
the
can't take
prizes are always nice.
The prizes are great. I mean, I can't take any credit. You know, Jim Russo should take all the credit for that, but he's done a great job. This is our 9th year in this. But give Jim a call at Manor Lanes 2 if you want to come out and have some fun and raise some money for our kids.
The action will continue on Beat the Champ in just a minute. Welcome back to Beat the Champ.
I'm Janelle Sabin, and we're out here at Alley Brandt Lanes at the mini golf course with the owner, Brian Borowski. We have this brand new golf course, so that's one of the many reasons to come out here during the summertime. Brian, tell me a little bit about the golf course and all the fun you can have here.
Well, we've opened about 3 years ago. As you can tell, our beautiful waterfall that's right over here. And you're going to play one of the funnest holes here.
Oh, yeah?
Yes, I think you'll enjoy this one.
All right, so I guess we're going to try out some mini golf today.
All right, Janelle, it looks like you need a little bit of practice in mini golf.
Yeah. Well, how many holes do we have here, Brian?
We have 18 holes that go around about 20,000 square feet. It's open Monday through Friday at noon, Saturday at 11, and Sundays at 9 a.m.
All right, so it looks like I'll be coming back here to practice my mini golf game.
This is big. This is the 8th frame for Joe Pullman.
If you see how deep his feet are, you know he's going to be trying to play right around to the right of third arrow. So he got that in a little bit. He crossed over third arrow. He really wants to be, you know, like 2 boards right of third arrow, 1 board right of third arrow. He doesn't want to get any more left than that. So his target should be 13.
Now, everybody at home couldn't see it, but you referenced it. His right foot was actually hanging off the edge of the approach. And you mentioned him being so much deeper.
Well, he uses a lot of the approach, so that's. But where he's lined up on his first shot is a lot more left than where you traditionally line up for a house shot.
We've got a tie ball game.
That's exactly right. We are tied through going to the 8th frame for David Tolkaz.
A little bit closer than we've been seeing so far.
That is true. Remember, David has won his first 2 matches of the day with scores of 185 and 205. And a lot of that has been him being safe and his opponents not doing what they're supposed to. That's another big strike for David Tolkaz. Again, I think he struck every time on lane 34.
And you know, good for him because he's taking advantage of. He's making good shots in that lane. He's taking advantage of what he has.
And plus, he made a great decision to finish on that lane.
Which was different than what he had done in the first 2 matches. So this match could be decided by strategy.
Correct. That was a good shot.
Nice strike on 33 for Tolkaz, 2 in a row. Don't forget, we've already started qualifying for next month's Beat the Champ shows at the Rapids Bowling Center in Niagara Falls. That qualifying has begun this weekend, and it will continue Wednesday the 26th, and then Saturday the 29th, and our top 24 roll-off will be Sunday the 30th. And remember, the number 1 qualifier in that top 24 roll-off gets the winner of a $500 Dirt Cheap TV.
We've got Joe in a must-strike situation here.
Almost. That one pin did a lot of wobbling in that must-strike situation, but would not go down. Goodness. That pin did more side-to-side swaying than anyone dancing at a wedding anywhere in Western New York this summer.
I know, both shots that ball swayed, or that pin swayed. That's another interesting thing about a sport pattern. You know, the hook's in a different spot, and it's not as typical. If you use your first ball to make your spares, you may be seeing a different ball reaction.
That's why you see a lot of the pros, when they're in a more challenging condition, to throw a plastic ball or a harder surface ball and go straight at it and don't rely on the hook at all.
Right, on a house shot, it's real easy to adjust off of your strike ball, but on a
because
sport
you have
pattern.
a higher concentration of oil, so it's a lot more forgiving in the middle, whereas sport condition, you need to be precise.
Right, sometimes the hook's to the left of you as opposed to the right of you, and that's where you get that little extra when you're shooting your cross lane spares.
Well, once again, for the 3rd straight match here, you see a look of frustration on the opponents of David Tolkaz, who just can't get that ball to do what they want him to do. And on the other side, David has done just enough to get himself another victory. Maybe one of the more unlikely sweeps that we have seen here on Beat the Champ, particularly when you account for the level of the opponents here today. But it's a heck of a tribute to David Tolkaz. So 171 is the score on the board for Joe Pullman, but it is not going to be enough. Okay, 170 would be the final score correction for Pullman. David Tolkaz with that key strategy move to start off first and end on lane 34. It doesn't necessarily come into play, but it was a very key decision for him, and it's going to lead him to a victory. And again, trying to play the hook there on the edge, it did not happen, but it's going to wind up as a 179 to 170 victory for David Tolkaz, and a sweep of the week. Pretty amazing. We'll talk to both guys and get David's reaction to this unlikely series of victories for him, but guess what? Gets to come back again next month. We'll do that when this edition of Beat the Champ returns to Alley Brandt Lanes in Lockport. We're back right after this. Final score of this 3rd match of the day, 179 to 170. Another win for David Tolkaz. For you, Joe Pullman, you put up a nice fight, as good a fight as anybody has done here today. What was the challenge for you, as everybody has been dealing with the lane conditions?
I was having trouble on lane 33, just finding it, hitting my mark, and a couple easy spares. I think that was the shame. I missed 2 easy spares and match could have been totally different.
You're not the only one struggling on lane 33.
Yeah.
Brian, make them feel a little better.
Well, congratulations, good bowling and qualifying.
Thank you.
Here's your money.
Appreciate it.
Well, Sue, you're with the man of the moment.
Speaking of lane 33, what was your strategy to that lane? Because we could see from back there that one was a little bit tougher.
It's definitely tighter. If you, I mean, you got less room to the right. I felt a lot less comfortable on that lane, so I had it like 2.5 boards right of 34, and I mean, you had to make shots or else you left, bad things.
So keeping it in play and making your spares was a big deal today, wasn't it?
Yes, it was, until the 10th frame, where you could just throw those away though.
Okay, well, good luck next week. We have the same challenge.
All right, thanks.
It's 3 in a row now for David Tolkaz. 3 in a row today. It's 4 in a row overall, and he gets to try to add to that for next week's show. Sue and I will preview our next week's stop here in Lockport. When we return, it's Beat the Champ at Alley Brandt Lanes. We're back right after this. Well, I'm trying to wrap my head around one of the more unusual shows that we have ever had, and that doesn't say anything bad about David Tolkaz because he's been a great bowler, but to think that he won these 3 matches today with winning scores of 185, 205, and 179 is pretty unbelievable.
He did. He went through some great bowlers to do that, but sometimes it's about just getting more pins in your opponent, not so much these high scores we're used to seeing, because the sports shot is going to change the pattern of everything.
Yeah, and David will get to come back and try to keep that going. I think David Tolkaz is already ranked among the best cheering sections we've had on this show.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, with the sweep of the week, I mean, what more could you ask for? He has a great cheering section, and we're going to see more from him next week. Hopefully he brings the fans.
Yeah, and I think that has helped him get him in the right frame of mind to be as successful as he is. So the David Tolkaz Show will continue when we see you next week right here on Beat the Champ.